So I've just come across a video, lying in bed here, it's early hours of the morning. I've just come across a video which is entitled Top 10 Racist Cartoon Moments. It's posted by someone called Nana Boss. There's quite a lot of these sort of things online, like racist Disney moments, and it's usually from old cartoons. I just want to discuss a little. I'll go through the list and I'll make a link to the video so you can judge for yourself. I just want to discuss a little if we can perceive these as genuinely racist, or if there's a bit of political correctness and overt sensitivity coming into this. Now, from my own perspective, when I look at some old cartoons from, for example, the 40s, there's definitely some overtones there of some old cartoons which are just outright, I think they go beyond stereotypes to be bordering on racist, because some of those cartoons, when they, for example, dehumanize African Americans as being stupid and ape-like, that's a dehumanizing thing, so that I think is outright racism. However, others, I think that political correctness may be coming into play. So I'm going to go through this list of the 10 moments that they've chosen. I'll make a link to the video so you can check for yourself and see if you agree or not. First one, 1955, Lady and the Tramp. It sort of shows two Siamese cats coming down, walking along, and they've sort of got buck teeth, and they're singing in a sort of exaggerated Southeast Asian accent, I guess. We are Siamese, if you please. I guess the perceived racism there is it's an exaggeration of the voice. So I can't really see where the racism coming from. Maybe the frontal teeth or something, I'm not really sure. But you know, Southeast Asian accents are different from Western accents, so it's just an imitation of an accent. The next one, Dumbo, it shows a group of crows. I think the stereotype here is meant to be about African Americans. I'm sure the N-word is mentioned, but I need to watch this one several times to pick up what they're getting at. So I'm not so sure about that. If the M-word is mentioned, I can understand the controversy with that, because bear in mind, in the 1940s in America, there was still black people being lynched, so I can understand that being a sensitive issue. The next one shows a black woman in a church with a baby crying. Now she's pitch black, she's got very big lips. That's often a sort of racial stereotype in old cartoons. I can see the offence with that one. I can see why that's... Oh yeah, and she gives the kid a watermelon to keep him quiet. Now the next one, this generated quite a lot of response. 1967, The Jungle Book. It shows King Louis. That's definitely not racist, because actually the character is meant to be an orangutan. It's not an imitation of a black man or something. It's meant to be an orangutan. And the real King Louis, I mean the actor who played that role, Mr. Paris, I forget the guy's name, but he really did speak like that in real life apparently. So I really don't see any racism with that. 6, Popeye. Now Popeye was often controversial. 1942, You're a Sap, Mr. Jap. It basically shows a very exaggerated Japanese character, really frontal teeth and a really exaggerated Japanese accent, small physique. I can see that crossing a line. However, with the Japanese ones, and this is by no means an excuse, you have to remember, in the World War II context, it was total war. And I'm not saying that's an excuse to racially stereotype, but Japan itself was an incredibly racist country when you consider their attitudes to other Asian groups which they saw as inferior at the time. So certainly I wouldn't see a Japanese victimhood there, because it's really I mean, it was a stereotype, but bear in mind this was a total war. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying that it's justified, but I think the context needs to be understood as well. And I'm not condoning it. I'm just pointing that out. Next one we have is, let's see, Looney Tunes, 1959, very exaggerated Mexican accents. Um, with this, the only thing I can see really is the accents, and that's the trend with a lot of them. It seems to be some sort of like raccoons, or I don't know what sort of animal they are. Next one, 1960, the Flintstones. The Flintstones are going to a judo class, and there's sort of the judo teacher has very slit eyes, a bit exaggerated role, a bit of an exaggerated role. Again, it's a bit of a racial stereotype, but my question is, where's the line between a slightly, let's say, inappropriate racial stereotype and outright racism? Now, the next one, I couldn't see it. Again, I couldn't see it. Peter Pan, 1953, it shows, I guess it's meant to be an Indian girl, Native American Indian girl, sort of kissing Peter Pan with her nose. Then he goes red, he blushes. She's a pretty girl. He goes red, he blushes, and he goes yada yada yada. Now, how that's perceived as racist, I really don't know. I don't see how that could be an offensive thing. What it shows Native Americans are excitable. Where's the racism there? I don't see it. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't see it. Looney Tunes, 1953, Southern Fried Rabbit. Well, maybe connotations there with. Don't entirely see it with that one. The last one that they have as number one, I can see a stereotype, but I have no idea why they have it as number one. Tom and Jerry, you see sort of slippers of the house owner. She sounds like an African American just by the accent, and she sort of spells out a word as if, I guess it's insinuating there's a bit of a childlike nature there. So that's the 10 clips. Let me know what you think. Certainly I've seen much more incendiary things online from old cartoons, which in my opinion really are racist. Most of these, I'd say 50% of them are really just accents. Some of them where there's actual features being drawn in, especially with the human characters, I can see a problem. But I also think there's a trend, especially with the American left, of extreme political correctness in the last few decades, which is sort of the other extreme from the severe racism of the 40s. Now, there was certainly serious racism at that time, especially against Asians and African Americans. But having said that, I do think we have to differentiate between racial stereotyping, which is inappropriate, that's true, and outright racism. Now, outright racism, it's hateful, it promotes violence, and it dehumanizes another race. However, stereotyping might be things that actually carry some truth in terms of the way people sound, in terms of maybe some pastimes, that sort of thing. And I do think that, in my opinion, political correctness is, at its most extreme, it's just as dangerous as racism, because it's actually a form of sort of thought control, and is very unpleasant as far as I'm concerned. I could definitely see the controversy with some of these, but I think there's much worse examples online. Watch the video, let me know your own thoughts. By the way, I'm not saying I actively approve of any of these clips, but I do think that racist is a loaded word, and I don't think it applies to all of them. It definitely doesn't apply to the Jungle Book scene, because King Louis is meant to be an orangutan. It's not like he's imitating anyone. He is meant to be an orangutan. So what, are they saying it's racist towards orangutans? I don't know. But, I don't know. I think there's a problem when you start really delving deeply into this sort of stuff. It would be interesting to see, incidentally, these are always American clips. It would be interesting to see old Japanese or Chinese cartoons, just to see if they have racial stereotypes. I'm not familiar with them. I don't know if they do or don't. But it seems to be these clips are always from the United States. Now, maybe the US was more guilty of racial stereotyping, I don't know. But then, bear in mind, America's a country built by immigrants, so it has a lot more experience of diversity, and quite often racial tensions, than other more homogeneous societies. That may be a factor. Certainly not an excuse, but it's a factor. So, I'll post the link to these clips in my opinion, some of them can be viewed as racist, but I also think there's an exaggeration here, and the word is being misused for some of those clips. So it's really a case of genuine racism versus political correctness. Some of the old Popeye cartoons, by the way, I could definitely see a clear racism with those. And I do think there's the other extreme whereby, I'm talking about political correctness, but there is the other extreme where there is genuine racism going on there and people deny it when it's pretty obvious what's happening. I mean, the problem is in a caricature, if you dehumanize another race as being ape-like, something like that, that isn't just a cartoon. It actually does go beyond that, in my opinion. It's been used throughout history to demonize another group of people. So even if it's in the context of humour or whatever, I think it can be a problem. So that's the other area. So basically what I'm getting at here is it's a case of extreme political correctness versus actual racism, and I think both might be applicable. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you.